Hello again. We're going to have one more session, and this is going to be a recap of things that you have heard so far in different presentations. And this is regarding the job aids the handout that you have received. And as we go along, please flip through the pages so that you can also refer to your own handouts and see what the job aid materials are that we have given. So these are just recaps of 7 concepts. One is the material required for DBS collection and drying. Second is the material required for DBS packing and transport. Quality assurance for DBS sample collection and sample handling. Fourth is the work instructions for DBS sample collection and drying procedures and storage. Fifth is acceptance and rejection criteria. Sixth is transport of DBS specimen. And seventh is DBS packing and storage at ready reckoner. All these things are ready reckoners. All the 7 job aids are ready reckoners that you can refer to for your enabling your work. So the first one is the material required for DBS collection and drying. And under this, we have many things listed. The first being the sterile disposable lancets that all of you have been provided, sterile gauze and clean water for hand wash, powder-free gloves, nitrile gloves. This is also provided, and you have to use 1 glove per patient, and it should be powder-free to avoid PCR inhibition. You have sterile alcohol being given as swabs, and you have the test request forms, and you have the barcode and test IDs in rolls that have been supplied to you, one row per person, and you have the DBS cards given to you, and you have the drying racks, and you have the discard jar in which you have to put 1% sodium hypochlorite. Along with these things, you'll also require your registers and your sample transportation log. So this will make your entire collection material complete, and drying also. Now we'll come to the second job aid, materials required for DBS packing and transport. Here again, we need powder-free nitrile gloves. We need glassine paper. Here we are showing a roll, but in our case, we have given you small slips of paper to be used with each DBS card. Then we have Ziploc bags, which are airtight bags. You have to zip it very tightly to avoid air coming into the bag and increasing the humidity. We have the desiccant sachets, which has got the silica gels, as we have seen showing here. We have the humidity indicators card. We have already spoken about it. It has got ascending gradations of dryness, starting with 10% going up to 60%. The color change. Every time the blue color lightens, you have to watch and change. When it becomes lighter shade of blue, you have to change the card and the sachets. We have given you biohazard labels. These need to be fixed onto the padded envelopes before posting, so that people will be aware of the fact that you are transporting a substance with biohazard potential. And we have blank labels, and these blank labels are to be fixed to the plastic Ziploc bags and the names written on it or the label, and just to be pasted on the Ziploc bags. And then we have got material stationery like staplers and marker pens, and sample transportation logs, registers. So all these two are evident. I don't want to talk about it. Sample transportation log is an important accompaniment of your DBS cards while you're posting. In the case of ART center collection, you post the sample transportation log only to the viral load lab. In the case of LACs, TIs, you have to send 1 copy of the sample transportation log to the viral load lab, and 1 copy you have to send to the ART center. So this is another thing that you have to keep in mind, that we have given you self-carbonated sample transportation log, so that you don't need to write twice, and with one writing you can just to enable the ease of your job. And the registers we already talked about. There is one kind of register in the ART center and another kind of register in the TIs and LACs. And the quality assurance is your third job aid. Is about the quality assurance for DBS sample collection and sample handling. The first one here, the first important thing is that your sample ID, the patient ID, is entered correctly, for which we have talked about many mechanisms, one of them being the registers. So there are 2 kinds of registers again that we talk about, one for the ART center, and another format for the LACs and TIs. So you fill in that with the requisite information like patient name, ART number, etc., etc. Whatever the requirements are, please fill in the register center completely. And the second mechanism of quality assurance is use of sample ID and barcode. Sample IDs are put on your DBS cards and your barcodes are put on your TRF forms. Then the use of powder-free gloves cannot be emphasized more. Every time you collect a sample, you have to change the gloves and you have to use only powder-free gloves which have been provided along with your testing kits. And fill each DBS cards as per requirement. And the more about this is given in your job aid number 5 regarding the acceptance and rejection criteria. But to be very brief about it, incompletely filled circles will not provide enough material for testing, and so should be avoided like this. It shouldn't be incompletely filled. If a DBS card is overfilled, do not erase the overfilled portion. If you feel it is too full and don't go and rub off things in between with any liquid eraser or anything. So this is another quality assurance thing that you need to be aware of. And to continue with the quality assurance points, there should be at least 3 good spots on your DBS card, and these should be as centered as possible, especially in the case of perforated cards. Centered means when you're putting the drops, put it in the middle of try to put it as much in the center as possible so that it can spread out to the peripheries. And do not expose DBS cards to sunlight, as direct sunlight and heat will deteriorate the specimens. So don't put it under sun or any kind of heat source in order to dry it quickly. It has to dry at room temperature on the racks. And put 1 card per drying slot to avoid contamination. Just don't stack it. Don't put 2 there are all these stacked slots on your drying rack. Just put 1 per rack so that it won't touch each other and contaminate each other. And storage, dried cards are to be stored in the Ziploc bag with desiccants and humidity indicator card at 2 to 8 degrees Celsius in the refrigerator till its transportation. So this is how we pack. We already talked about it. You put silica gel sachet, you put the humidity indicator card, and you also put individually wrapped DBS cards into the Ziploc bag. Up to 10 cards can be stored in 1 Ziploc bag. If there are more than 10 collections per day, you have to use another Ziploc bag and put the rest into the next Ziploc bag. And you label it. We have shown it as handwritten, but in this case, what we're suggesting, you label the Ziploc bags with two identifiers. One is the name of the sender from where you're collecting, and also the total number of cards, DBS cards inside 1 Ziploc bag. So these are the identifiers that you need to write on the Ziploc bag. So all these will enable the quality of your collection. So now we move on to our next job aid, which is work instructions for DBS sample collection. Wash hands and use a new pair of powder-free gloves, disposable glove. And it's very important that a new pair is used for each patient. Name, date, and test ID you have to put on the DBS card. We have said it many times. Select the lateral side of the fingertip, preferably of the left hand ring finger or the non-dominant hand left finger. And so another note here is warming the skin puncture site with warm water can increase blood flow. Disinfect the site using 70% alcohol and allow it to dry for 30 seconds. Very important, allow it to dry for 30 seconds. Wipe off the first drop of blood as it will be contaminated with alcohol and tissue fluid. So first drop, we all know this, it's a very simple procedure. First drop should be wiped off. And you have, this is the pictorial representation. You are looking for your finger, you are identifying the site, the lateral side, and then you prick that with your lancet. And the point number 5 in the work instruction is apply gentle pressure and allow a large drop of blood to collect onto the middle of the circle on the DBS card, middle of the circle, as we said earlier also, and continue this process until all the 5 circles are filled. Do not touch the DBS card at any stage of collection. So don't touch the center of the spots with your fingers, either gloved or ungloved. You should touch will bring in contamination, so that shouldn't be done. Apply pressure on the puncture site. Once you have already filled all the 5 spots, you apply pressure on the puncture site till the bleeding stops, and after the required number of spots have been filled. Place the completed DBS cards horizontally without touching the spots on a drying rack for a minimum of 3 to 4 hours. Very important. Or overnight to allow blood spots to dry completely. It should be away from direct sunlight and heat. That's one point we've already said. Don't put it in sunlight. Don't put it near a window, and so that to enable it to dry faster. Let it dry in a cool, dry place away from sunlight and heat. And also, if you're leaving it overnight, please make sure that you have some mechanism of protecting it from insects, rodents, etc. Because pest control is very important within the labs. Otherwise, you see that in the morning it has been eaten away by ants or rats or something. So make sure that such protective mechanisms are taken. Wrap each, once this is dry, you take out each card and wrap each DBS card with a folded sheet of glassine paper. This glassine paper or the butter paper, and place the glassine paper wrapped cards in a Ziploc bag. Store 10 individually wrapped cards in up to 10. It's not like there has to be 10, whatever you have, but up to 10 individually wrapped cards in a Ziploc bag. And each bag should have also 10 desiccant bags and 1 humidity indicator card. So there are 3 things that you're putting in your Ziploc bag. One is the DBS cards wrapped individually in glassine paper, so that one card will not touch another card. And then you put the humidity indicator card, and then you put 10 desiccant bags or sachets into one Ziploc bag. So once you have it, you completely seal the Ziploc bag. The zip part of it should be completely sealed. As it is shown in the picture here, this part should be completely sealed. The point number 10 is clearly label the outside of each bag with the name of here it is, we are showing it as written with marker pen, but we have given you labels, so we can put the label and then you paste the label onto the Ziploc bag. Clearly label the outside of each Ziploc bag with name of the ART sender or LAC or TI and the total number of cards in the bag. And expel any air within the bag and seal it tightly. Okay, double check at the closure. Make sure that the closure is secure. Make sure that while you are doing that, you press down the air and let all the air in the bag escape, and then you seal the bag and make sure that the seal is secure. And keep the packaged DBS DBS cards refrigerated at 2 to 8 degrees until transported to the referral laboratory. Do not freeze. Please do not put this in the freezer. Put it in the lowest chamber of your refrigerator so that the temperature is maintained and it is free from rodents and insects and all that. If the humidity indicator card signals softening of the blue color, this is what we said earlier also. There is an ascending gradation of dryness. When it is it's only 10% dry, you get this color, 20%, 30, up to 60%, you get a really dark, bright blue. So once when the cards are dry and the silica gel is still having capacity to absorb moisture, it will be showing a blue color. So as silica gel gets saturated with moisture, the humidity will be picked up by the card and the soft blue color softens. And by the time it becomes a soft blue, or even at this point, you can change the card and the silica gels. Both should be changed because your humidity indicator card is only an indicator. It doesn't serve the function of desiccation or drying. The drying is done by the sachet. So if the card shows the color changing, you have to change both the card as well as the silica gels. If the humidity indicator card signals softening of the blue color or lightening of the blue color, change the desiccant pouches and the humidity indicator card. This inspection of the card should be done at least once a day it is imperative to record the storage conditions found after each inspection. Suppose you are collecting the samples on a Wednesday and you're going to post it only on Friday. So make sure that you inspect it on Thursday also and Friday also before postage. And if there is any change in color, please change both the sachets as well, the desiccant sachets as well as the humidity indicator. So that's your fourth job aid, and your fifth job aid is your acceptance and rejection criteria. Yes, acceptance criteria, or a good card should have at least 3 adequately filled circles. Samples should fill the circles and it should be as centered as possible. The picture, just look at the picture. There should be no outward spreading of the circle beyond the circle line. Every circle has a line or a perforation. It shouldn't go beyond that. There should be no sign of hemolysis. We'll show you what hemolysis and hemolyzed sample looks like in the next picture. There should be no overlapping circles. There should be no serum rings. There should be no sign of clotting. After drying, DBS card should be dark and uniform in color as is seen in the picture, indicating proper collection and drying. The identifiers on the DBS card should be clearly readable. So the identifiers are the name of the patient, date of collection, and the test ID sticker, and match the accompanying work. So these are the 3 identifiers: name, date of collection, and the test ID sticker, and it should match with whatever you are writing on in your TRF forms. And these are the rejection criteria for DBS sample. The first one is insufficient volume, picture number 1. There is like inadequate volume, so that the drop that has formed wasn't big enough to fill the circles. Second is outward spreading of the blood due to sample not dried fully. So that it's overlapping, too much of blood was put on this and it is spreading and it is touching each other. Serum rings due to hemolysis, probably due to alcohol. There are 2 reasons why serum rings can happen. These are the serum rings. One reason is because of hemolysis of the blood, or maybe due to the alcohol contamination because you have punctured the site before the alcohol is completely dry, in which case you will get these serum rings around your spots. And fourth is can't read the identification number or wrongly or illegibly labeled specimen. So like in this case, you really can't make out what is written. So this will lead to unnecessary delays. The sample may be good, just because the identification thing is very illegible. It may lead to unnecessary delays and the lengthening of turnaround time. So please avoid that. A layered sample. A layered sample is when you have one spot and then you think, oh, that's not a big enough spot, and you put one more layer of one more drop over a dried spot, in which case it becomes a layered sample and it's not an acceptable sample. And clotted sample, like here, blood is clotting and you have rubbed your finger against the spot, so you get spots like this, which are also not acceptable. Too much sample will be also look like this picture number 2 when it's flowing outside of your the peripheral line. Poor humidity control, as we already spoken about it. This is the place where you undertake a call and change your card and your sachet, or here. But if your sample is received in the viral load lab and the humidity is at 10% dryness, if it's a pink, then naturally it becomes a rejection criteria. So make sure that before you pack your DBS cards for postage, make sure that there is the cards are dry and everything is in good shape before you post it. So we don't want the samples to arrive in the viral load lab with a pink spot, which will automatically lead to rejection of the samples. Abraded or scratched samples. This will happen if you are going to stack the samples one on top of other when before it is drying or during the drying process. This kind of thing cannot be used for your viral load testing. So this will become automatically a rejection criteria. And in addition to that, missing sample or lab request form. If there is a lab request form missing, TRF form missing, or your sample transportation log missing, all these things will only lead to delay. So even if the sample is available and TRF is missing, at that point, viral load MO, viral load medical lab in charge may have to communicate with the MO of the ART center. So this is unnecessarily going to lead to delays. So make sure whatever you send is complete. So once again, at the risk of repetition, I am repeating to the viral load lab. You send your all your DBS packs in the Ziploc bags. You put all your TRFs, and you put a sample transportation log that goes to your viral load lab. In the case of LACs and TIs, what you have to do this postage to your viral load lab, as I said right now. And in addition, you have to do one more thing, is to post your TRFs with your barcodes and your sample transportation log to the ART center, so that ART center can update the details on the IMS. And as along with every day when you're collecting, you also send the information to the ART center that I'm talking about, the LACs and TIs, by scan copies. You are going to post it, but you also send the scan copies whenever you are posting a consignment to the ART center with your TRFs and your sample transportation log. You also scan and send the information to that, so that ART center will know that so many samples have been dispatched to the viral load lab. They'll also, ART center will also get the hard copies by post, but before that itself, you make sure that the information arrives at the ART center through scanned copies. Then transportation of the DBS specimen. So use a reliable tested courier. In this case, we are using India Post, and sender must dispatch these collected specimens to the testing laboratory twice a week, preferably Tuesdays and Fridays. Take care to keep the DBS free from moisture and humidity. We already talked about it, how we have to change the card before the postage, and also do not bend the barcodes. Do not bend the barcodes. And this is a sample transportation log, a picture of that. One of these goes to the viral load lab. One of this will go to your ART center along with the TRF in the case of TIs and LACs. Both this information with all, because if you're going to send 10 samples today, all the 10 samples should be listed out, and this should accompany your cards which are going to the viral load lab. It should also accompany your TRFs which are going to the ART center, and this should also be scanned along with the TRFs and sent to the ART centers by the TIs and LACs on the day of dispatch. Okay, I said it, repeated it many times so that you will not have any problem in recollecting. And finally, this is your DBS storage ready rec now. Let us start with the collection on the DBS card, your identification, your name, your test ID. Then you dry it on individual cards like this on the sample rack, and then drying rack. And then you pack individually each card in the glassine paper. You put it into the Ziploc bag. You put your humidity indicator card. You put 10 sachets of your drying, your desiccant sachets, and you can store up to 10 cards inside one Ziploc bag, up to 10, not more than 10, up to 10. If on any day you're collecting more than 10, you have to start another Ziploc bag and repeat the whole process of the humidity card and sachets in the next bag also. After you put everything, you seal the bag, expel the air from the bag, and you seal the bag and you label the bag with the name of your center as well as the total number of cards inside the bag. And then you keep it in the fridge at 2 to 8 degrees Celsius. Do not put it in the freezer, put it in the fridge in the one of the lower shelves. And then on the day when you have to do the posting, when you do the posting, you take it out and you equilibrate the temperature. You bring the bag to room temperature by keeping it at least for 1 hour outside. And before you start putting it into the envelope, you look at the humidity indicator card and see whether there's any color change. If there is any color change, you change the card and put new silica sachet into this and re-seal the envelope. And after that, you take the brown padded envelope which has been given to you and you put the biohazard label on it, put the name of the your sender's name and the recipient's name as a label on it, and then you put your TRFs with your barcodes and extra barcodes, as we have said earlier itself. You put them all into your brown envelope, and make sure that the barcodes are not bent. Barcode should be, as much as possible, it should be straight and it should be preserved so that the information can be gathered by scanning. And then you put your sample transportation log here, and then you put your the bags, Ziploc bags with your DBS cards in it. So there are three things which are going in: your TRFs, your sample transportation log, and your bags with your DBS cards. And then you seal the envelope and you post it. So that is your procedure for when we are showing 3 TRFs here. That means we are transporting from a TI or an LAC. When you are transporting from an ART center, you will have only one of them going. Here you are putting 3 TRF. You don't put all the 3 in one bag. This is actually a mistake. You only put one TRF in the bag. One TRF which has to go to the viral load lab. So this is for the viral load lab package. You put one TRF which is meant for your viral load lab. You put the sample transportation log. You put your DBS cards, and you seal it and send it. And there's another process the TIs and TIs have to follow, and LACs have to follow. You have to put one TRF for the LAC in the bag and the sample transportation log. So these 2 things you send to your parent ART center. So this entire thing is for your viral load transportation. But along with that, the TIs and LACs will also have to do one more packaging, as I just said, with your TRF card and your sample transportation log. So I hope this hasn't confused you. If there's any confusion and if you have got any questions, please feel free to revert back, and our people in the field will be able to help you with the details. Thank you so much.